afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. This is BGG bringing you the Straight Talk Radio call for Thursday, September 10th. Apologize for that deuce email that we sent out earlier that had the wrong day and date on. I have no idea how I managed that, but I sure did. And I sent out a correction. And if you're here and listening to this, then you got that and tuned in anyway. Thank you so much. Before we get going, I want to make sure I say thank you to all of our check copiers, moderators, great news researchers, all the personalities that stop by and help out with dinarupdates.com, make it the website that it is. I appreciate every last one of you. Make sure that you are a member of the Deuce List, that you follow us on Twitter at Dinar Updates, that you're a member of the forum, that you support our advertisers, and most importantly, tune into that chat room because it has just been chock full of news. Dave's been in there off and on all day, and she's not even supposed to be in here on a Thursday, and that is gives you an idea how the news is going lately. I called it a Throwback Thursday, and I did a little bit of a flashback on the beginning of the blog, and I put that in the Observer as well, and that was that feasibility study done by the it was Iraqi Ministry of Planning, I believe is where it came from. But I'll publish the whole thing on the blog yet today, and it talked about their feasibility and where they expect it to land, and that's on both the blog and the Observer. Excellent, a bunch of interesting news. You know what? More on this commentary the last few days about what to call it, RV, float, managed regime, this, that, and the other thing. You know what, folks? I really don't care. I think anybody saying that, I just don't care. If you call it an RV or an RI or what you call it, or you call it a float, or you call it a mixed float, or you call it a managed regime, I really don't care. As long as an investor, as long as the value is going up and it looks like they intend to do that in the future, that's all I care about. Let some other. As far as I'm concerned, I'll give somebody else the tag of the smartest guy in the room as long as I, as an investor, gets profit from this thing, because that's why we're all here, right? Because listen, there's going to be no magically, there's going to be no DraftKings big check handed out for the guy who's the most right in the dinar. Really, there isn't. So my point is, and quite honestly, I don't know exactly what they've called it in the past when the dinar has gone from 4,000 to 1 to 3,000 to 1 to whatever that interim number was to 1166 to 1. I don't know what they've called it. But had you bought it at the beginning until now, you would have made some money. That would be called, in an investor's world, that's called appreciation. And that's really what we're after. And that's to follow up on the commentary the last few days, kind of about it. Interesting news. I'll cover a few headlines real quick. Not going to be a terribly long call, but some good stuff happening, by the way. Iraq's central bank governor says the dinar is in a good position, blah, 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 blah. If you read this article, it's essentially Iraq trying to give himself some pats on the back. Truth of the matter is, Iraq isn't in any way qualified or competent to be the governor of the Central Bank of Iraq, and he has, during his tenure, he has diminished the Iraq foreign currency reserves or foreign exchange reserves from about $90 billion down to $60 billion. Have no idea how much gold they actually have on hand. But the guy's a liar and a crook, and he's going to get what's coming to him along with Maliki and everybody else, as I have been saying. But that was an interesting article that kind of started out. And the point is, why does Allah put that out right now? It's because he's in deep trouble, and he's trying to instill some confidence in his job, not in the dinar or the Central Bank of Iraq. That's exactly what's going on there. So that was an interesting article, and that was my read on it. There is also someone else out of the chairman of the Economic and Investment Committee says that there talks a little bit about the 50,000 dinars launch, the 50,000 dinar version launch. More than likely, but they're going to postpone the 100,000 category. Probably could be some double talk there, maybe a translation issue. I wouldn't hold my breath. I would just not worry about that right now, because I'm not even sure which party the chairman of the Economic Investment Committee is on, or which party he comes from. That's going to tell a lot, because that'll, depending on which side of the fence he is on, that will tell. And listen, this whole business about politics not having anything to do with this, they're all wet. They're just all wet. These people, all these prognosticators talk about the details and the this and the that and the other thing in the report, and all the details have got to be done, and these 2 or 3 laws have got to be done. Listen, the overarching situation of politics, it is all about the politics, folks. Maliki, I can almost point to you on the calendar, over a year ago, Maliki had intended sometime last fall to do some kind of a currency move with the Iraqi currency, but he got ousted in, what was that, around August? Had intended to potentially do something in the August-September time frame, but he wasn't there to do that. So that whole plan got nixed, and that's even if he was telling the truth, by the way. So because nothing he ever said was true. But on his way out, he installed this Ali al-Araq character, or whatever the guy. I mean, there's paperwork that does point out he's gone by several different names, but Maliki installed one of his longtime supporters and confidants as the proxy governor of the Central Bank of Iraq. He installed him right on the way out. That was roughly a year ago. There's a reason I'm getting to that. So anyway, fast forward to now, we've got these articles coming out. There was a couple of noteworthy pieces. One of them was Abadi has had to make some apologies for having to leave the parliament under some kind of an emergency. So not sure exactly what that emergency situation was, but he had to leave immediately after he got there. It doesn't really, that I've seen yet, doesn't say what that emergency was, but he was there and then had to leave immediately. Apparently, here's an interesting headline. It says the Parliamentary Integrity Commission, so we have lists of properties belonging to the former regime. They're going after all this money. They're going after the property. They're going after the corruption. They're going after all of it. They want all that money back. And that is exactly what the struggle is going on right now, politically. The overarching theme that's going on in Iraq is they are attacking corruption, the nepotism, the judicial corruption, and they're attempting to put all these militias and paramilitary groups under the direction and control of Baghdad. And that's exactly what these various National Alliance state of law coalition groups don't want, is they don't want to lose their own private armies. That's ultimately what it is. There was one other article. There was 2. Abadi apologized for attending. He actually did attend today's meeting, but he had to leave immediately. And there was one other article I wanted to cover before I hit the meat and potatoes. I misplaced it. Anyway, let's go on here. On the blog, there's several very, very good, two very, very good articles. One of them titled "Iraq's Prime Minister is Turning Against Iran." This article really details everything I've been saying for a couple of weeks, and it just came out late last night. I published it immediately and used it for today because it's pivotal. It's critical to understanding exactly what the political scenario is going on in Iraq right now. So this kind of points out that Abadi has, and you know what? And I use this because there are numerous people say, well, Abadi's been in there for a year. Why hasn't he done something about this corruption until now? This article points out exactly why he hasn't done that. Exactly why he hasn't done that. So if you take the time to read that whole article, digest, see what it says, essentially Abadi's just kind of getting, after a year, he's just kind of getting his sea legs under him, and he's just now getting enough support that he can actually go after these very, very powerful characters in Iraq and start cleaning the place up. Exactly what it said. Well, I should say that's kind of a redneck paraphrase, but that's, if you read it, that is the characterization that that is being portrayed. And I have a sneaky suspicion some of these pictures that recently that have popped up, which is recently you see these pictures on Twitter with Abadi and Abadi and Maliki sitting in the same room, laughing, apparently seeming to have some political cohesion between the two. That is not either. Number one is probably not a recent picture, even if it is. Abadi's looking at Maliki just like the cat that just ate the canary. So he may be laughing and smiling this and the other, but there is a political reckoning that is on its way right now. And this first article on the blog for today very plainly draws that out. So if you want to really know what's going on in Iraq, make sure you pay attention to both those articles on the blog today. And essentially, it points out that Abadi is pushing back against Iran, against the Shia hardliners. He's pushing back against those who want to divide and control Iraq from outside of Iraq, which includes us, by the way, but it also primarily includes Iran and General Soleimani. So both those articles kind of lay out exactly what's been going on there. And that is, and I also kept up there that article about the member of the Parliament Economic Committee calling for the deletion of the zeros and the issuance of the small banknotes, coming out of the same committee where the committee chair asked for the new 50,000 note. The two concepts don't jive with one another. There's no way that you can reconcile those two thoughts unless you look at which side of the fence both those people are standing on. I honestly think Najib is standing on the right side of the fence, and that's going to be where this thing lands. Is my personal opinion. I believe that is what will happen, but I think that there's some political developments that have to happen first. Having said all that, they can happen very, very quickly, and that's what we're looking for right now. It appears that the political winds have changed in Iraq, and they're moving very much in our favor. So appreciate everybody for tuning in. Thanks for taking the time, and make sure you tune into the chat room. We're going to have a roundtable at 1 o'clock Eastern Standard Time tomorrow in the chat room, and Marion Day will probably be in, looks like she's going to be in more in the chat room this afternoon, and then tomorrow evening for news time. Thanks so much. Have a great